Welcome to Creative Imperfections. I'm Kelly, and I am so glad you're here. Think of this podcast as your safe place to be your beautifully messy self. Let's dive in. There are seasons in our lives where everything feels like it's working. You're consistent, you're focused, you're showing up in your work and your life in a way that feels aligned. And there's a rhythm to it that almost feels effortless. You start to feel like you've finally figured something out, like you've cracked the code on how to stay disciplined and motivated and moving forward. And then, without warning, life steps in and shifts the entire dynamic. It's not always in a dramatic or obvious way, but it's in those layered, everyday ways that just change your capacity. Your schedule gets fuller, your energy gets lower, something personal needs your attention. Your body doesn't feel the way it normally does, or your mind feels more scattered than focused. And suddenly the things that felt manageable before start to feel chaotic and heavy, like you're pushing against something instead of moving with it. We've all been there. And that is the moment where a lot of people turn on themselves. They start thinking they're falling behind or losing momentum or somehow failing to maintain what they had built. They compare their current output to a version of themselves that existed under completely different circumstances. And of course it doesn't match. So they assume something is wrong with them instead of recognizing that something has simply changed. Because life isn't consistent in the way you want it to be. It doesn't operate on a clean schedule where your energy, your focus, your responsibilities all stay the same from day to day or week to week. It shifts. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's all at once. And if your definition of consistency is tied to doing the same thing at the same level no matter what, then every shift is going to feel like failure. But consistency isn't about sameness. It's about staying connected. It's about continuing to show up in some way, even if the way you show up has to adapt to what's going on around you. And that's not weakness. That's awareness. It's sustainability. Because what actually builds something long term isn't how hard you can push when everything is easy. It's how willing you are to stay in motion when things get complicated. When your energy dips, when your life demands more from you in other areas. And staying in motion does not always look impressive. Sometimes it looks like doing less, but doing it intentionally. Sometimes it looks like shortening the time or adjusting the expectation or just giving yourself room to breathe without fully stepping away. What gets people stuck is the all or nothing thinking. I used to be the same way. The idea that if you can't do it in a way that you were doing it before, then it's not worth doing at all. And so we stop. Not because we don't care, but because we've set the standard in a way that doesn't allow for real life to exist alongside our goals. But here's the thing, your life is not separate from your work. Your experiences, your challenges, your energy levels, all of it feeds into your creativity. It feeds into your perspective. It feeds into your voice. So when life gets lifey, it's not pulling you away from your path. It's simply becoming a part of it. And the goal isn't to fight your way back to a previous version of productivity. The goal is to stay connected to what matters in a way that honors where you are right now. And sometimes that requires a level of honesty that does not feel comfortable because it means letting go of the idea that you always have to operate at your highest level to be doing enough. And you don't. You just have to stay in it. Even if that means showing up in a smaller way than you'd prefer, even if it means your progress looks a little less than it did before, even if it means adjusting your expectations so that you can actually sustain them. Because the people who last in any creative field, in any long-term pursuit, are not the ones who go the hardest all the time. They're the ones who know how to stay when it gets hard. how to adapt without disconnecting, how to keep a relationship with their work, even when life is pulling their attention in multiple directions. There is no such thing as work-life balance. I prefer to think of it as work-life harmony. We need to find harmony between our work and our lives. As a business owner and as a mom, this is something I personally struggle with all the time. I am expected to work as if I don't have kids, but I'm also expected to be a mom as if I don't have a job. So if things are feeling heavy for you right now, if your capacity feels different, if your rhythm feels off, take a breath before you decide what that means. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you've lost your discipline. It might just mean that life is lifey right now. It's asking you to adjust, not abandon. So I would challenge you to redefine what showing up looks like for you right now. Not based on what you were doing before, but based on what you actually have the capacity for today. And then do that without minimizing, without comparing, without telling yourself it's not enough, because staying connected, even in the smallest way, is what keeps everything moving forward. Thank you for listening to Creative Imperfections. Always remember, there's magic in the mess. If you enjoyed this episode, share it, subscribe, and keep showing up for your beautifully imperfect journey. Until next time.